Welcome back to the more Sip2Tally countdown. I'm your host, Coach Evans, and today we're going to take a look at our number two team. That number two team was probably, I think, number 30 last year on this list, and it is the Detroit Lions. Made a huge mistake on them last year. I didn't count any of the rookies. They had a huge contribution from their rookies last year. Not going to make that mistake again. And as far as the roster goes, I think they have the second best roster in football right now. Let's talk about the quarterback room. Jared Goff is the only one of significance here last year. 407 completions, 605 attempts, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Backing him up is Hendon Hooker, who was out most of last year. I think he came back maybe week 13 or 14 from the injury. Didn't get any reps or whatever. And backing him up is Nate Sudfeld. So mainly it's just Jared Goff in this room, and he did a good job of leading them to the NFC Championship game. Did a great job of getting that Ben Johnson's offense, getting it going, making big plays, making big throws, the checks and all that good stuff. So Jared Goff did a good job of that for the Detroit Lions last year. Let's go to their running back room. In the running back room, starting off with David Montgomery. 219 carries, 1,015 yards, 13 touchdowns. With him, well, not with him yet, 16 catches, 117 yards. Now with him, the guy do I think who's technically better than him, or shall I say more explosive than him, is Jamar Gibbs. Jamar, however you say it, Gibbs. He had 945 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns. He also had 52 catches for 316 yards with another touchdown. And when I watch the Lions play, almost every time he touched the ball, it's like lightning in a bottle. But I do understand the need to keep Montgomery as back number one to get that constant grind, and then use Gibbs as a change of pace. So I understand it. Also in that room, Craig Reynolds had 179 yards rushing, 5 catches for 47 yards also. Going to the wide receiver core. I like the versatility of the wide receiver core. Starting off with the Amon-Ra St. Brown, 119 catches, 1,515 yards, 10 touchdowns. Great season. All pro. Damn near unguardable. Jameson Williams started to come on toward the end. His speed is ridiculous. They use him to take the top off of stuff. Let Amon-Ra work underneath, and some other guys. Jameson Williams, I like that combination of those two. Also, you throw in Khalif Raymond. I really like Khalif Raymond as a slot guy. Real shifty, get in and out of breaks, get you what you need. You know, he's a spot player. Doesn't have this great huge skill set, but he can do a few things and he can do them really well. They got DPJ in that room also, Donovan Peoples-Jones, also Antoine Green and Traquan Smith. As far as Jameson Williams, he had 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Khalif Raymond had 489 yards and a touchdown. So I look for Jameson Williams to have a huge uptake in his yards this year, especially with some of those other guys they moved on from. He's going to have a bigger role now, and I think he's fully healthy too. Their tight end room. They have the next great tight end already, and this will just be his second year, and that's Sam Laporta. 86 catches, 889 yards, 10 touchdowns. This dude is really good, and like one of the reasons I even had these cats like so low last year, because I didn't count on Gibbs, I didn't count on Jameson Williams, I didn't count on Laporta, and all three of those cats showed out. But Laporta is really good, and I don't think it's because of the system he's in. I think his skill set translates into these new tight ends. It's him, Trey McBride, some other guys that they really have this same type body style. They can run, they can block enough, they can get open, they can catch the ball. Sam Laporta is he's a B tier tight end already. Also in that room, Brock Wright, 13 catches, 91 yards, and then James Mitchell rounds that room out at 2 catches and 28 yards. Going to the O-line. They have one of the best O-line in the NFL. And these are the PFF grades for that O-line. Taylor Decker, 81.1. Graham Glasgow, 74.9. Frank Ragnow, 88.8. Kevin Zeitler, who they picked up from the Ravens, who was one of the Ravens' best O-linemen. They got him now, 71.6. And then Penei Sewell, who's one of the best offensive linemen in the league, 92.8. And you add all of them together, that's the lowest graded one is Kevin Zeitler at 71.6. And he was the best lineman for the Ravens. So that's crazy. But their O-line is really, really good. And you can see why Jared Goff and Jamar Gibbs and Montgomery are so successful behind that offensive line. Let's tackle the defensive side of the ball. Starting off, and they are 4-3 teams, so we'll start off with their defensive ends. The main guy in that room is Aiden Hutchins, Michigan born and bred. Last year he had 11.5 sacks and 51 tackles. Those numbers are not an indication of how disruptive Aiden was last year. Aiden was pretty good, and he also didn't really have anybody on the other side to take attention away. So he got all of the attention last year. This year is going to be a little bit different. They added DJ Reed in that room. And the reason I say that, because being a Ravens fan and going against DJ Reader, the Bengals defense looked a lot different when DJ Reader was in there. He didn't have a lot of stats, like 1 sack, 34 tackles, but you have to commit resources to block Reader, and then that lets your other guys eat. Also, they brought in Marcus Davenport, who had some good seasons with the Saints. Didn't play 4 games last year, but is a formidable guy on the other side of Hutchinson. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with Houston. James Houston jumped in his rookie year and had 8 sacks in the last 6 or 7 games. But he was hurt most of the year last year, if not all of the year. So thinking about him coming back too should help Aiden Hutchinson out. And the other defensive tackle is Aleem McNeil. He had 5 sacks for 32 tackles last year. Their linebackers, the 3 linebackers they're going to run out there is Alex Anzalone, who's had a great career, even with New Orleans back and now up in Detroit. Had 129 tackles and 3 sacks. Jack Campbell will be in his 2nd year. They picked him up, if I'm not mistaken, from Iowa last year. He's one of the guys I didn't count on too. He had 95 tackles and 2 sacks. Then also the weak side linebacker is going to be Derek Bowens. He had 81 tackles and 1 sack. Their defensive back room, their cornerbacks, which is where they needed the most help last year, revamped room. All new guys I'm going to call out to you. Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay, 52 tackles, 9 passes defended, 2 interceptions. They drafted Terrion Arnold from Alabama. He'll probably start. He'll be a rookie. Meek Robinson was a corner for the Raiders last year, if I'm not mistaken. 2 interceptions, 6 passes defended, 50 tackles. So they revamped their cornerback room and that's really what they needed. Because they got good players at every level, except for in that cornerback room. So they took shots at that. They also drafted another guy, but we'll talk about him in a minute also. The safety room, Kirby Joseph, solid dude, 82 tackles, 11 passes defended, 4 interceptions. And then Brian Branch, another rookie who I didn't count on last year, 3 interceptions, 13 passes defended, 74 tackles. So the safety room is pretty good. Also, Detroit got solid players on every level of defense. And they're young. They're young. Like I said, I didn't count any rookies in my power rankings last year. And Detroit had a bunch of rookies make a bunch of plays, and were the reasons I was way off on their prediction last year. But let's take a look at how I have each room ranked and see if you agree or disagree with it. So the quarterback room, I have 17. Running back 2nd, wide receiver 3rd, tight end 7th, O-line 1st, defensive line edge 5th, linebackers 22nd, cornerbacks 12, and safeties 26. Add it all together, divided, came out to be 10.55556, and that makes them the number 2 team on the more Sip2Tally power rankings. The rookies for the Detroit Lions, Terrion Arnold, who's probably going to start, we mentioned a second ago. Ennis Rakestraw is that other corner that I mentioned that I didn't call his name, from Missouri. Real solid player. Definitely going to be in the rotation, especially with Terrion being a rookie. He'll definitely be in that rotation. Giovanni Manu, who I always want to call Manu Ginobili, but he's an offensive lineman from British Columbia. Simone Vaki, who they got him listed as safety, but he plays safety and running back at Utah, so wherever they want to implement him there, they can do that. Mekhi Wingo, a defensive tackle from LSU, and then rounding it out in the 6th round with Christian Mahogany, an offensive lineman from Boston College. And we know how their offensive line is. Unless somebody get hurt, you probably ain't breaking that mold right there. So now, with that being said, that's the number 2 team, the Detroit Lions. We all know who the number 1 team is now. So let's kind of get into it and be prepared for that because we're going back to back today. So let's take it right on to the number 1 team. I appreciate y'all, and let's go right on over.